Hey guys, it's Professor Walnut. Thanks for stopping by the lab today. So, I'm back from vacation, but things are still a little bit chaotic as we get settled back in, so it's just going to be me talking as a drawing again today. Anyway, we're on to week 2 of the Malamar Games, and the theme this time was famous team recreation. So I know last week I didn't do the best job of explaining the theme, so this time around I'm going to give you a breakdown and my thoughts on what I did with it. The idea was to pick out a team that placed in the top 4 of a pass pre-Sword and Shield format. Of course, since we were playing on cartridge, we could only use teams that had all 6 Mons in Sword and Shield. For example, no Smeargle teams. And the idea wasn't to just one-to-one recreate the team, it was actually to try to modernize the team. For example, you'll see that my team has a Kangaskhan on it. It used to be a Mega Kangaskhan, but that doesn't exist anymore. So I decided to go with the fairly common these days Fake Out and Last Resort set that Kangaskhan's like to run. And all of the other Pokemon were updated in similar ways, which I will show you as we switch over to the team right now. So here's the team. I recreated Eduardo Cuna's 4th place Worlds team from 2016. When I was looking over things that would be popular for people to pick, I saw that in this format, Xerneas could really go in since Zacian is not around. So I knew I wanted to run that, and I also found that people would probably gravitate towards Kyogre, so I wanted to try doing something a little different. As such, I went for Groudon. Thundurus on this team also stood out to me, because at the time it was necessary to run it as Prankster Thundurus, as the hidden ability for Thundurus hadn't been released yet, but I saw an opportunity to use the Thundurus of today's day and age, that being the Defiant Physical Life Orb set. I knew that people would be running Xerneas pretty frequently. Like I said, without Zacian around, Xerneas is free to play. And I wanted Thundurus to be running Smart Strike so I could get a strong max Steel Spike into it. It doesn't KO the Xerneas, however, it does between 80 and 90% while Xerneas tries to set up, leaving it pretty low and easy to pick off. I will mention, and I'm sure you've probably already noticed, that the herb on Xerneas is not the one that it needs to be. Unfortunately, I went into the battle with that item on Xerneas rather than the power herb that it needed, so for transparency's sake, I'm keeping it here as well as I talk over the team. Obviously, if I were to go back, I would change it to Power Herb because that's what it needs to have. The Bronzong of the past would run Gravity to help Groudon hit Precipice Blades more often. However, Bronzong no longer has access to Gravity, so I decided instead to go with a much more standard set for Bronzong these days, being the Iron Defense and Body Press set with Ally Switch and Trick Room. Hitmontop came forward almost exactly the same, except with one notable difference: it now has access to Coaching, which I could use to even further set up Groudon. For the Groudon set, I decided to go with something fairly standard, although I think back in those days, Bulk Up Groudon was a little less common. Probably the most standard Pokemon that you would see back then and in today's game is Xerneas, which is just running Protect and Substitute because I valued having both of those on it, as well as the standard Geomancy with Moonblast. So yeah, that's the team that I ended up recreating. Again, it's Eduardo Cuna's 4th place team from 2016 Worlds. The team that my opponent ended up recreating was Mark Jackson's 3rd place team from the 2019 Roanoke Regionals. So yeah, that's going to be the full breakdown, and let's go ahead and get into the battles. I should mention that because I was on vacation, I ended up just recording this match, and I will be talking over it rather than it being me live commenting on it as I play. So yeah, I'll see you over there. Alright, so here's the battle. And the instant that I saw my opponent's team, I thought that Groudon with a bunch of Airstream boosts and Bulk Up boosts could really go in here, because if you look over it, we hit 3 of the 6 Pokemon here super effectively, 2 of them neutrally with strong hits, and then Rock Slide still messes with Yveltal pretty significantly, so I decide, yeah, Thundurus Groudon makes a ton of sense here. Xerneas obviously deals with Yveltal, and Hitmontop for Fake Out support, and Intimidate's nice, so that's what I'm going to try, and yeah. As we lock in and we wait for everything to load in, let me take a moment to speak about my opponent. He's relatively new to the scene, and I think he's really got the potential to come up. I feel like he made a good informed choice here on his team, and made some interesting choices with team building. Yeah, I'm looking forward to see how he does in the next few weeks. So yeah, he's going to lead Amoonguss Groudon. And here we are with Thundurus and Groudon. I don't know why I said it like that. Thundurus and our Groudon. Now, this first turn, he has a lot of options. I feel like he could go straight for a Max Rockfall, or just Swords Dance or something like that, and I have no idea if Amoonguss is Cobra Berry or Focus Sash. You'll see that I contemplated clicking Bulk Up there, but I didn't want to go to sleep, so I chose instead to go for the double up into Amoonguss. Of course, I could have always missed Precipice Blades. That was always a possibility. You can see me waffling a little bit here, trying to figure out exactly what I want to do. However, ultimately I just decided, okay, I need to double tap the Amoonguss just in case. So here we go, here's my max. I sort of expect him to max as well. But as it turns out, he does not, and he instead just goes straight for Rage Powder. So that honestly works really well for me. I'm not going to sleep this turn regardless of the item he has, and so we Airstream here, revealing that he is neither Koba nor Focus Sash, and it just goes down. Now we're going to get our speed boost onto both of our Pokemon. Groudon's going to be able to click Precipice Blades here, which honestly does quite a bit of damage. Nearly half, and they're going to click Precipice Blades as well, which does significantly less to my Groudon, actually. I'm not sure if that means that we're bulkier or if they have less attack investment or both, but obviously it's nice to see on our end. So here comes their Incineroar. I'm not sure in this first game if my opponent knew about Defiant on Thundurus, but we get our boost, which is fantastic. And yeah, they take Groudon's attack down, but here I can just attempt to click Bulk Up, because I'm not really that scared of getting hit by a Fake Out and another Precipice Blades, because it's not going to do that much damage. And there's always the possibility they just decide to target down the Thundurus instead. Of course, I'm also a little bit worried about a possible Max Rockfall from Groudon, but I think at this point, if I take that and Thundurus goes down, it's done its job, and we've got Groudon pretty well set up. So yeah, here we are with their Max Groudon. Like I said, I'm pretty sure I'm about to be taking a Max Rockfall. But, like I mentioned, my opponent is new to the scene, and he had a bit of a learning experience here. Dynamax Pokemon can't flinch, and I talked to him a bit afterwards, and he was like, yeah, that shocked me. But hey, we all start somewhere, right? I think that's a totally reasonable choice to make if you haven't seen that interaction yet. But it does put us in a really good position here as we get to take Groudon down to its berry, get our Bulk Up off, and then, well, probably say goodbye to Thundurus, but as it turns out, my opponent goes for Max Flare, which has me thinking it probably doesn't have a rock move to go for Max Rockfall here. Now I just want to double this turn again because I expect to take a parting shot, and I want to keep my attack at least neutral. And their Groudon goes for Max Guard, which I think is a good play here. I could have considered targeting somewhere else. In fact, I think a better play this turn would have been just Max Airstreaming into Incineroar, and going for Precipice Blades. I don't know if that would KO at this range for the Groudon, but it would definitely take it incredibly low. But yeah, instead we get a bulk up off and get the Parting Shot thrown into us as we see what their last Pokemon is. And his last Pokemon is Yveltal, and so I'm thinking, oh great, we're in a fantastic position because I can just Wild Charge into the Yveltal, and that should KO at +1. And you'll see that's exactly what I'm going to go for here, as I once again bulk up with Groudon in an attempt to make it completely unkillable. Now, the only thing that I have to worry about here would be Yveltal going for a special attack that would do enough damage to Groudon to put it in range of a KO from their Groudon. But by going for Wild Charge, I stop that from happening. As it turns out, though, their Yveltal is running Sucker Punch, but that really just means that they have to click Sucker Punch here instead of a special attack into Groudon. So you see, yep, Sucker Punch. It does take down Thundurus, but we ultimately get another bulk up off with Groudon. And then you'll see we barely take damage from this Max Quake. Now, I feel like Xerneas is in the perfect position here. At this point, I have not realized my mistake. In fact, I don't realize my mistake for this entire set. I managed to get through it without clicking Geomancy once. But in this position, I'm thinking, alright, Yveltal can't do anything to Xerneas, really, so taking down Groudon is better. You can see me thinking about it for half a second there, just going ahead and taking the KO on Yveltal, but I feel like he's in a more awkward position here if I just take out Groudon and force Incineroar to come back in. So, I go for the Rock Slide. You can see that on its own does half to Yveltal. So, yeah, I think my targeting here was really good, and we get lucky and get a flinch here as well. So yeah, at this point I'm thinking, yeah, Incineroar is going to come back in. Yeah, I can click Fake Out, but as long as I click Rock Slide and Moonblast, the Yveltal is going down one way or another as long as Rock Slide doesn't miss. So that said, my thought process there was a little bit flawed because I think Rock Slide actually would have missed out on the KO thanks to the Intimidate. But as it turns out, he's going to decide to Fake Out into Groudon rather than faking out into the Xerneas. And I think it's a missed target on his part. I think you at this point have to hope that either Rock Slide misses or it doesn't KO Yveltal and doesn't flinch again, so you can attempt to do something. But even if that happened, I still don't really see how Yveltal and Incineroar deal with Xerneas at that point. So you'll see me going for Precipice Blades and Moonblast here, a pretty easy turn. We do get them to reveal the Shuka Berry on Incineroar, so we know that going forward. And it still does over half, of course. And Moonblast just finishes it off, so that's game one. So going into game two, you'll see me lock in very quickly because I take a second to think about it to see if I really want to do anything different than what I just did. And the answer is no. My game plan worked out as perfectly as possible here. And I don't think I have any reason to deviate. Likewise, I don't really feel very much like Kangaskhan offers too much here. Like, yeah, maybe it does something to Amoonguss, kind of, but there's not a whole lot of reason to bring it. And then Bronzong is in a similar position where, yeah, I can probably do a couple of things to some Pokemon, but there's not a whole lot of reason to bring it either. The fact that they're there as a threat on the team is good enough, because my opponent has to think about them in team preview. So my thought is, how is he going to change it up? But looking over his team, I was thinking it's not really, regardless of how he changes it up, I think I probably have this with the same lead. It feels a little unfortunate, just like the nature of the format. I almost feel like I accidentally counter-teamed my opponent, because I just think this combination of leads right here deals with almost anything that he wants to go for. So yeah, you'll see I deviate my turn 1 play just a little bit by going for Bulk Up and Airstream into Amoonguss, and the reason I do that instead of the Airstream and Precipice Blades is because now I know Amoonguss is not Focus Sash or Kova Berry, and it's just going to drop here. And once again, I just don't want it staying on the field because it could start spreading spores. It could just be really annoying. So here we are, Big Thundurus. Once again, he goes for Rage Powder, so I'm wondering if we're just going to see a repeat of the same opening turn. But yeah, Airstream's going to take the Amoonguss out. And rather than my own Precipice Blades, here comes Bulk Up to raise my attack and defense. And we'll see that my opponent actually does deviate his first turn a little bit by going for Swords Dance, which admittedly is a bit scary, especially if my assumption that he does not have Max Rockfall ends up being wrong, because that would just completely wreck the Thundurus at this point. Once again, he sends out Incineroar, which gives me the Defiant boosts and honestly helps me out a whole lot. And so going into this turn, I'm thinking, alright, he knows about Fake Out now, so I'm actually just going to protect Groudon. Obviously, last game I got lucky. I had no idea he didn't know about Fake Out. And then I want to try to survive whatever he's going to go for with Thundurus, so I am going to use the Steel Spike, which I had teched on there for Xerneas's, but in this case it actually is helpful here too. Of course, if he does have Max Rockfall, then I still go down anyway, but I'm still betting on the idea that he doesn't have it, and the Steel Spike will help me survive the repeat of the Max Flare. So yep, here's my Protect. And his Fake Out. Right into the Protect. As expected there, and here comes my Steel Spike. And you'll see that that was actually critical to survival, because Thundurus just hangs on here with 62 HP. So yeah, it gets one more turn to do its thing. I feel like I just want to, well, I think about Precipice Blades for a minute, but I want to keep bulking up because I'm scared of the power the Groudon still has at this point. And I'm going to go ahead and Airstream the Incineroar. Now, I assumed that I was about to KO Incineroar. However, in my EVing of Thundurus, I took some from attack and put some into HP just for a little bit more bulk, which I think was helpful to survive here with that Steel Spike boost, but it also made it so that Incineroar just barely hung on. So we're going to see another parting shot from Incineroar here after Groudon's Max Flare, which finally takes down Thundurus. I will say, I think we got out of the first few turns here really well, just because I think Groudon might have run away with the game if he was able to one-shot the Thundurus. So yeah, here comes Parting Shot, and we're going to see the last Pokemon. This time I'm thinking it might be Yveltal again. However, he also deviated that a little bit as we see Nihilego come in. So with those two out on the field, Xerneas actually doesn't feel like the correct switch in. I'm actually going to bring in Hitmontop to get an Intimidate down on the Groudon and to pressure Fake Out on the Nihilego. Fake Out does two things here. It makes it so that Nihilego flinches if I happen to miss Precipice Blades, and it also breaks a Focus Sash. Mind you, if it had clicked Protect, so, if it clicks Protect, then it gets out of this turn unscathed, giving Groudon a free turn, but ultimately I think this is my best play here. You can see it doesn't click Protect, and Precipice Blades does connect on the Nihilego, though it misses the Groudon, but honestly Nihilego is the more important target here, I think. And we're going to see yet another Max Flare come out into Hitmontop. So I think a better move here would have been a Max Quake to give it boosts on the special defense side, since they know that I have Xerneas, and most likely put it in the back again. But ultimately ended up going for 3 Max Flares. So now it's a boosted Groudon next to Incineroar and... Sorry, it's a boosted Groudon on their end next to their Incineroar versus my Groudon and Xerneas. Both fully healthy, Groudon pretty boosted up, as you can see here, and yeah, Xerneas just here and able to do some damage. Now, I'm thinking they're probably more worried about Xerneas, and I'm feeling more worried about getting a Fake Out and some damage from the Groudon on Xerneas, because I'm not sure how much it's going to do at +1. So I decide, alright, I think they'll Fake Out into Xerneas, but I call that wrong here, and they Fake Out Groudon. That said, it's not a huge deal here, because the Precipice Blades doesn't really do much to Groudon. And Sun's over. So, the Fake Out turn done, I can just go ahead and click Precipice Blades and Moonblast. The idea is, of course, KO Incineroar, get damage onto Groudon, but even if we miss either of the targets, we at least do some damage to Groudon, and I'm not too concerned about Incineroar staying alive. So once again, we missed the Groudon, but we do take the Incineroar regardless of the berry because it's just so low. And we actually get a bit of luck that I think ultimately only sped the game up a little bit here. But Moonblast does crit, bringing it down to its berry, and in range of a double up the next turn. As long as we can hit, of course. With Groudon, there's always the possibility of misses. And you'll see that even at +1, the Fire Punch there doesn't do a whole lot of damage. I do think it's possible that this Groudon is more bulky than anything else. But yeah, we're just going to go Precipice Blades, we're finally going to connect, and we will Moonblast for the KO. And you can see that I'm watching this on YouTube as the end screen stuff comes up. But that's going to be the Week 2 game for the Malamar League, the famous team recreation. I hope you've enjoyed, and I'll see you in the end card. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed yourself, and if you do, consider subscribing, as we're going to keep on keeping on for each week in the Malamar Games, and at the times that I get the chance to, I will also be uploading other videos, Pokemon related. Check out the description of the video for various links. Leave a like if you want to help support me. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one.